So, you're ambitious, you have big dreams, you want to be successful and eventually live the life you've always envisioned. But there's a problem. You're lazy. You know exactly what you should be doing, yet you don't do it. This leads to feelings of guilt, because deep down, you know you're capable of much more. This guilt accumulates over days, weeks, months, until it eventually turns into acceptance. And then the new year comes along with the same goals as last year. You start strong, driven by motivation and a bit of self-deception, but before you know it, procrastination sneaks in, like that one relative who always shows up uninvited. Your persistent procrastination becomes a daily cycle of laziness, and before you know it, you start labeling yourself as a lazy person. So how do you break this cycle and escape procrastination? There are plenty of videos on the internet, but most of them only address the symptoms. For example, deleting social media or eliminating distractions. This may help in the short term, but it doesn't solve the real problem, the main cause of procrastination, and it can be summed up in one word: momentum. Inertia. In physics, inertia is the tendency of objects at rest to stay at rest, and objects in motion to stay in motion unless acted upon by an external force. This is also Newton's first law of motion, and it applies the same to tasks as it does to objects. Starting any task, regardless of its size, requires an initial impulse and a certain amount of energy to overcome the state of rest. And this is exactly where the problem lies. In our mind, we exaggerate and complicate this first step so much that we prefer to avoid the task altogether. And instead, we distract ourselves with cheap dopamine-inducing activities. So, to break procrastination, we must break inertia. And there are two ways to do it. The hardest part is starting, so make this step as easy as possible by lowering the bar and taking the smallest possible step forward. For example, if you say, "I have to sit down and write a 5,000-word essay," the inertia is too strong because the stakes are high. But if you say instead, "I'll just write 50 words," the feeling of inertia will be much smaller. Because it's easy, you don't have to rely on willpower or discipline. Another popular technique is the 2-minute rule. If you don't feel like working, tell yourself you'll do it for just 2 minutes. And then, you can simply stop. For example, don't feel like cleaning your room. Play a song, start cleaning, and stop when the music ends. The best part is that you usually last longer than 2 minutes, or write more than 50 words, and that's because objects in motion stay in motion. In other words, once you start moving, you begin gaining momentum that keeps you going. At first, it's like pushing a ball uphill, but once you overcome the point of inertia, it's all downhill. That's why it's important for the initial push to be as small and easy as possible. In other words, lower the stakes and start with just 2 minutes. You can use these two methods in any area of your life, whether it's going to the gym, working on a side project, maintaining relationships, or anything else. As Martin Luther King said, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." Thank you for watching.